All right, some of you guys thought that 6.0 was falling off, but they're going to be back bigger and better than ever. Skipping Gen 3, kind of like floating core designs or with polypropylene altogether for, I guess, fully foam cores and their new line. Here we have a first look at the Black Opal and the Ruby Pro. I'm here just going to give you my initial thoughts on these paddles. First and foremost, I think these paddles look great. Like, man, this Black Opal design right here with kind of like the shifting color, the topography looks really cool. I will say this is, beautiful, elite, hits hard, but probably not for me. I'll go into that in just a minute. And then, of course, right here, we have the Ruby Pro. I think large 12 millimeter cells, 14 millimeters. And this kind of hits kind of like an old school paddle, but in like a brand new way, brand new old school. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'll try to explain it more in a bit. I definitely prefer the Ruby Pro over the Black Opal. At least as of right now, I would definitely need some more time. I think I could get used to the Opal, but I definitely need more time. So let's kind of talk about how they compare with other current paddles on the market right now that you're kind of more familiar with. So let's see, if I this is how I would describe it. Okay, if I had to compare the Ruby Pro and the Black Opal to the other paddles that you find on the market that are very popular today, this is kind of how I would describe them and compare them in terms of performance, right? So if you take the current popular Gen 3 paddles that have either a floating core or like a horseshoe, like foam design with the PPP as the core in the center, like for example, the Yola Pro 4s, like the Thrive Fury, the Franklin C45, or even the paddle that I made, the My City Governor, I would say that performs like, imagine a diving board, a 1 foot diving board off of the ground that, you jump into a pool. That's how that performs, right? In contrast, the other new floating core paddles out there that you're hearing about or seeing, like the Rhombus Quanta, the new B&B Loco, the Selkirk Boomstick, those kind of perform like a personal trampoline. Okay, like a 6 foot trampoline that like only one person can kind of hop on at once. The Opal, using that same kind of metaphor, this performs like a large trampoline that you'd find in the backyard, made for adults and made for like 3 to 4 people, maybe. That's kind of how I would describe it. It's a very powerful and kind of plush feeling type of paddle. It's 14 millimeters, but I guess it kind of feels more like a 16 millimeter kind of core, and I just feel like it dwells and stays on the paddle very long, and it kind of just shoots out, and to me personally it's not as intuitive. Now, using that same metaphor, the Ruby Pro then would probably feel more like a springboard, like you see in some of those gymnastics events or meetings where they're running up on the track and they hit a small springboard and they do flips and tumble over across a beam or something like that. That is how I would describe the Ruby Pro. So I say I would prefer the Ruby Pro. It just feels more intuitive. I have more control over it, whereas the Black Opal would definitely take some getting used to for me. I also want to state that I feel like there is some break-in time. Now, these paddles are John Q's, and he's had about, I think, 15 hours on one of them, more than this brand new one. Now, I played with both of them, and when they're fresh out of the box, I felt like I could control them pretty well. It still has the same attributes that I described before, but my balls didn't feel like they were flying. Now, when I switched over to this one that's kind of more broken in, I definitely had to adjust my stroke just a little bit. Now, I have a fairly long kind of like stroke from tennis, like maybe like old school tennis, where I kind of like swipe through the ball, and then after I push through the ball, then I kind of brush up on the ball. That didn't really work for me because I like making contact with the ball further out in front of me. And then because there's so much like grit on this, which we'll get into in a second, once I start that upward motion, because I felt like there's so much dwell time and grit on this, it just follows the trajectory of my upward swing path into the end of my stroke, right? And I feel like that's what caused my ball to go out. Now, if I wait for the ball to come behind my front foot a little bit, right? So it's not completely in front of my body when I make contact and I get to like push through the ball more. That's where I was able to control the ball. So my contact point had to be closer into my body, like not past my body, of course, but still kind of like next to me, if that kind of makes sense. With the Ruby Pro, I really didn't have to make any adjustments to my stroke mechanics. When I hit it, it just felt right. I could make contact like out in front of me. The extra bite here bit the ball a little bit more to give me access to more spin, but I still had plenty of pop and power. It didn't have that same kind of pocketing and slingshot-like effect that the Opal did. And the Opal really feels like it really gives you that kind of pulling back and slingshot effect. Now, there are some interesting new tech that 6.0 has made in some of these paddles. Diamond Tough, which I think is the coolest technology. You can't really see it on camera, but like right here, maybe I'll get a close-up. But there is bits of industrial diamond inside or layered into the peel ply. I'm going to tell you right now, this is pretty gritty. And 6.0 claims that it is self-healing, which will remain to be seen. Only time will tell. And some of this tech is also here in the Ruby Pro. I don't think it has all of them. Let me see. What does it have? All right, 12 gauge. So it has 12 millimeter cells, which is what I'm assuming. And then it still has the diamond rough texture. Feels really good. And like in certain light, you can kind of see a little bit of a shimmer or a sparkle. And I think that's really cool. And then it still has that same power gel and then the shock shield in the handle. So yeah. These are 6.0's newest and latest paddles. The Opal should retail for about $250, probably like $225 in that area after code, if you want to use that. And then the Ruby Pro, I do not quite remember, but I'm going to presume that it is around the $200 to like $230 mark as well. Probably at least close to the same price as the Opal, I would say, $200 to $250. So yeah, those are my first impressions and thoughts about the Opal and the Ruby. Like I said before, I think out of these two, me personally, I would pick the Ruby Pro over the Opal, but I think a lot of you guys are searching out for like the latest and greatest and the most powerful paddle will probably pick the Opal, but I'm curious to see what you guys think once these paddles release. All right, till next time, play better, peace.